The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by Harv Eker argues that wealth isn't just about what you do, it's about how you think. And according to Eker, rich people and poor people think very differently. In today's video, we'll break down the core ideas behind the millionaire mindset, showing you how your beliefs about money influence your actions and ultimately your results. And before we talk about money, let's talk about you. Part 1. You were programmed to be poor. Who are you? How do you think? What do you believe you deserve? Your finances don't begin in your bank account. They begin in your beliefs. What happens on the outside is often shaped by what has been built on the inside. Your decisions, habits, and expectations are all filtered through a mental pattern that was formed long before you ever earned your first dollar. And there's a formula that explains exactly how. Your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings drive your actions. Your actions produce your results, which means every financial result in your life started as a thought. That pattern is what Harv Eker calls your money blueprint, a hidden script that influences how you think about earning, spending, saving, and success. And most blueprints were written before you had any control over them. They were formed in three main ways. First, what you heard. Maybe you grew up around phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or we can't afford that. Those messages may have sounded harmless at the time, but repeated often enough, they become deeply held beliefs. Second, what you saw. Children learn by watching. How did your parents handle money? Were they savers or spenders? Did they fight about bills? Did money feel scarce or abundant in your house? That behavior became your reference point. Sometimes you copy it. Sometimes you rebel against it. Either way, it still shapes you. Their blueprint became yours. Third, what you experienced. A single event can leave a lasting mark. Embarrassment over not having enough, tension in the house, a parent's comment about the rich neighbor down the street, or a moment that connected money with stress or shame. Experiences like that often become beliefs without ever being questioned. That's why the same money situation can lead to completely different choices. Some people get a bonus and save it. Others get the same bonus and spend it in a weekend. Some people hear invest and get curious. Others hear invest and see danger. The money in the account may be the same, but the reaction is not. That reaction reveals the blueprint. So the real question is not, why do I not have more money? It is, what do I do first when money shows up? That is where your blueprint becomes visible. Once you can see the blueprint, the next question is simple. How do you change it? It starts with 4 steps. First, awareness. Notice the thoughts and beliefs you carry around money. Most people never do this, they just react. Second, understanding. Trace where those beliefs came from. A parent, a moment, a phrase repeated 1,000 times. When you see the source, it loses its power. Third, choice. Decide deliberately whether they still belong in your life. Fourth, declaration. State clearly who you are choosing to become. That is where the shift begins. Part 2. 17 Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Now you see your blueprint clearly, here's what you can replace it with. 17 principles that can reprogram your blueprint. You'll discover the specific ways rich people think and act differently from everyone else. Let's go through them one by one. Chapter 1. How you see yourself. It all starts with identity. Before strategy, before investing, before any practical step, there's the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. Principle 1. Take responsibility for your life. Rich people believe, I create my life. Poor people believe, life happens to me. That is where wealth begins. Personal responsibility. If you want real financial success, you have to stop blaming luck, other people, or bad circumstances. Your choices, habits, and decisions shape your results. Wealthy people do not waste time blaming the market, the economy, their boss, or their past. They ask a better question. What is my part in this, and what do I do next? That difference matters because victim thinking keeps people stuck. It creates excuses, complaints, and blame. And the more responsibility you give away, the less power you have to change your future. For example, if someone loses money in a business deal, the victim mindset says, the market is unfair. The ownership mindset says, what can I learn from this? And how do I make a better decision next time? Principle 2. Play to win. Rich people play the money game to win. Poor people play the money game to not lose. The difference is in the goal. Poor people usually focus on survival, safety, and just getting by. Rich people focus on wealth, abundance, and growth. If your goal is only to be comfortable, you may stay comfortable. But if your goal is wealth, you make different decisions. For example, someone playing not to lose might keep all their money in a savings account because it feels safe. Someone playing to win looks for ways to invest, build assets, and create new income streams so their money can grow. Principle 3. Commit to becoming rich. Rich people are committed to being rich. Poor people want to be rich. That difference is bigger than it sounds. Wanting is weak if it stays at the level of hope. Millions of people say they want wealth, but they never move past hesitation, excuses, or fear. Eker's point is that most people do not actually know what they want. One part of them wants freedom and abundance, but another part fears risk, judgment, or the responsibility that comes with more money. That is why he describes 3 levels of wanting. I want to be rich, I choose to be rich, and I commit to being rich. The first 2 can sound good, but commitment is different. Commitment means you stop treating wealth as a wish and start treating it as a decision you will build around. For example, someone who wants to be rich may say they will start a business someday. Someone who is committed will study, plan, take action, and keep going even when it is uncomfortable, slow, or inconvenient. Principle 4. Do it scared. Rich people act in spite of fear. Poor people let fear stop them. Successful people do not wait for fear to disappear before they move. They feel the doubt, uncertainty, and discomfort, and they act anyway. That matters because fear can freeze action. If fear stops the action, the result never comes. No action means no business, no raise, no investment, no growth. The difference is not the absence of fear. It is what you do while afraid. Eker's larger point is simple. Growth happens outside the comfort zone. Comfort may feel safe, but it rarely produces change. If you always stay with what is familiar, your current job, routines, or relationships, you may avoid discomfort, but you also limit your growth. And the mind can make that harder by creating exaggerated worst-case stories, rejection, embarrassment, failure, or looking foolish. And those stories can feel real even when they are unlikely. So if your mind says, "Don't apply, you'll probably be rejected," apply anyway. If it says, "Don't start the side business, you might look foolish," start anyway. The core lesson is this: fear is not a stop sign. If something is important, earning more, saving money, raising your prices, or learning a new skill, then discomfort is often part of the process. Once you own your results and stop letting fear run the show, your whole lens shifts. The same world looks different, and that lens is exactly what the next 5 principles are about. Chapter 2. How you think about the world. Most people assume that if they just had more money, more time, or better circumstances, things would change. But rich people know the filter comes first. Change how you see the world, and the world you see changes with it. Principle 5. Your ceiling is your choice. Rich people think big. Poor people think small. Most people play small because they are afraid of failing, afraid of succeeding, or simply afraid of being seen as capable of more. Eker's point is that this small mindset usually comes from feeling unworthy or believing you do not have enough value to offer. But wealth is tied to value creation. Eker's law of income says you are paid in proportion to the value you deliver in the marketplace, and the size of that value is shaped by supply, demand, quality, and quantity. That means the more people you help, the more you can earn. A great coach who only works individually trades time for money. A great coach who packages the same wisdom into a group program or digital product can help many more people and earn more from the same core value. That is the power of scale. This is why Eker says you should not hide your gift. If your work genuinely helps people, your job is to share it widely, not keep it small. Thinking big is not just about making money. It also expands your impact, confidence, and sense of purpose. Principle 6. Stop waiting to feel ready. Rich people focus on opportunities. Poor people focus on obstacles. Rich people look at a situation and ask, "How can I make this work?" Poor people are more likely to ask, "What could go wrong?" Or, "Why won't this work?" That difference matters because opportunity-focused people move faster. They gather enough information to make a decision, then move forward and adjust as they go. The other approach is to keep preparing from the outside. But Eker argues that too much preparation is often just hesitation in disguise. If you wait until you feel completely ready, the opportunity may already be gone. Eker contrasts that with what he calls entering the corridor. Getting into the game, learning from the inside, and correcting along the way instead of standing outside forever and analyzing. For example, someone who wants to start a hotel business could spend months reading about hotels from a distance. Or they could work in a hotel, study how it operates, and learn the business from the inside. The second approach creates real understanding much faster. The point isn't reckless action, it's this. Perfection never arrives. At some point, ready enough has to be enough. Principle 7. Learn from successful people. Rich people admire other rich and successful people. Poor people resent rich and successful people. Resentment creates distance between you and the results you want. If you see wealthy people as greedy or unworthy, it becomes harder to build that same kind of success because you are rejecting the identity you want to develop. Admiration works differently. When you admire successful people, you train your mind to associate wealth with discipline, persistence, focus, and value creation instead of shame or selfishness. For example, if you admire a successful entrepreneur, you can study how they think, how they work, and how they solve problems. That is more useful than envying them or assuming they simply got lucky. Principle 8. Choose your circle carefully. Rich people associate with positive, successful people. Poor people associate with negative or unsuccessful people. The people around you shape your thinking, habits, and standards. Successful people look for role models they can learn from, while unsuccessful people often spend their energy criticizing the people they could learn from. If you want different results, you need different input. That means spending more time with people who are positive, disciplined, and growth-oriented because their habits influence yours. If you do not yet have rich or highly successful friends, you can still learn indirectly by reading biographies, studying their methods, or joining professional groups. The practical rule is simple. Model what works. If someone has already achieved the result you want, study their habits, decisions, and mindset instead of judging them. Principle 9. Stop choosing, start combining. Rich people think both. Poor people think either or. Poor thinking tends to focus on limits, money or happiness, career or family, success or freedom. Rich thinking looks for ways to combine goals instead of treating them as mutually exclusive. The key shift is from scarcity to abundance. Scarcity says there is not enough, so every gain requires a painful trade-off. Abundance says there is enough possibility to create more than one good outcome at the same time. For example, a person with an abundance mindset does not ask, "Do I want a good career or a close family?" They ask, "How can I build both?" That might mean choosing a career with flexibility, setting boundaries around work, or building a business that supports family life. The practical lesson is simple. You do not always have to choose one good thing at the expense of another. In many cases, the better question is how to create both. How you think about money shapes what you do with it, but at some point, those ideas have to meet reality, and reality involves money. How you earn it, receive it, and talk about it all matter. That's where the next 5 principles come in. Chapter 3. Your relationship with money. Most people have an unconscious relationship with money. They earn it, spend it, and stress about it without fully examining the beliefs behind it. These next 5 principles make that relationship conscious and change it. Principle 10. Promote your value. Rich people are willing to promote themselves and their value. Poor people think negatively about selling and promotion. Many people resist selling because they associate it with pressure, rejection, or manipulation. But being good at what you do is not enough. People also need to know you exist and understand what you can do for them. For example, a freelance designer who stays silent about their work may go unnoticed, while one who shares samples, explains results, and shows how they solve problems gives clients a reason to hire them. That is why rich people are often strong promoters. They understand that promotion is not just self-interest. It is how useful ideas, products, and services reach the people who need them. Principle 11. Stop rejecting money. Rich people are excellent receivers. Poor people are poor receivers. Many people know how to give, but not how to receive. For example, if someone says, "You did a great job," a poor receiver might reply, "It was nothing." A better response is simply, "Thank you." When you cannot receive money, praise, help, or opportunities comfortably, you may block the very things you want. A practical way to move from poor receiving to better receiving is to practice in small ways. Accept compliments without deflecting them. Accept help without immediately refusing it. Receive gifts or opportunities with gratitude. Allow yourself to enjoy something valuable like a good meal, a class, or a useful tool. The reason Eker connects this to wealth is simple. Giving and receiving go together. If someone wants to give you value, whether it is money, support, or an opportunity, but you refuse to receive it, you're shutting down the exchange. Eker's underlying message is simple. How you receive money is connected to how you receive life. If you can receive with gratitude and confidence, you are more likely to build both wealth and self-respect. Principle 12. Break the hourly trap. Rich people choose to get paid based on results. Poor people choose to get paid based on time. Time-based income has a built-in ceiling. If you trade hours for money, your income is limited by how many hours you can work. A salary or hourly wage can feel safe because it is predictable, but it also limits upside. For example, an employee may work harder, stay later, and improve performance without seeing income rise much beyond the fixed pay structure. By contrast, results-based pay rewards output, not just presence. A salesperson paid on commission earns more by closing more deals. A lawyer, consultant, or business owner may earn more by delivering stronger outcomes, not by working longer hours. That is why Eker says rich people prefer compensation tied to results. They want their income to grow with their value, contribution, and performance, rather than stay trapped inside a fixed ceiling. Principle 13. Income is not wealth. Rich people focus on their net worth. Poor people focus on their working income. Income is only part of the picture. Real wealth is better measured by net worth, the total value of what you own minus what you owe. A simple way to think about it is this. Net worth equals assets minus debts. Assets can include cash, savings, investments, a home, or a business. Debts include loans, credit card balances, and other liabilities. Net worth is shaped by three main factors. Income, money coming in from work and eventually from passive sources. Savings, money kept instead of spent, which becomes capital for investing. Investments, assets that can grow in value or generate returns. For example, two people may earn similar incomes, but one spends nearly everything and carries debt while the other saves consistently, invests regularly, and keeps expenses low. Over time, the second person is more likely to build a much higher net worth. This is why income alone does not guarantee wealth. If expenses rise every time income rises, little is left to save or invest. That is the trap Eker warns about. When spending keeps pace with income, wealth never has a chance to build. Principle 14. Give every dollar a job. Rich people manage their money well. Poor people mismanage their money well. Wealth is not mainly about intelligence, it is about money habits and money management. Financial discipline has to start now, not later when income is higher. One practical method is splitting after-tax income into separate accounts with clear purposes. A common version of that system is 10% for financial freedom and investing, 10% for play and enjoyment, 10% for long-term savings and irregular expenses, 50% for necessities and everyday living, 10% for education and personal development, 10% for giving or charity. This structure gives every dollar a job. For example, if someone earns $3,000 after tax, they might send $300 to investing, $300 to fun, $300 to savings, $1,500 to essentials, $300 to learning, and $300 to giving. That makes money management intentional instead of emotional. Eker's broader message is that waiting until you are caught up is the wrong approach. If you cannot manage a small amount well, a larger amount will usually create the same problems on a bigger scale. You now know how to earn differently, receive better, and manage what you have. But wealth isn't just built in a month or a year, it's built over time, through resilience, leverage, and a commitment to never stop growing. That's what the final chapter is about. Chapter 4. How you build long-term wealth. Long-term wealth isn't just about strategy. It's about the character required to stay in the game long enough for that strategy to work. Principle 15. Build the capacity to handle more. Rich people are bigger than their problems. Poor people are smaller than their problems. Rich people do not build wealth by avoiding difficulty. They build it by becoming strong enough to handle difficulty without losing focus, confidence, or momentum. Problems are part of any ambitious path. A business owner may face no traction in the first 3 months. A poor mindset says, "This isn't working, I should quit." A bigger mindset asks, what do I need to adjust? And what can I learn from this? The difference is not whether problems appear, but how the person responds to them. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it simply, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So instead of asking why this is happening, ask what you can change, what you can learn, and what your next move is. The problem never defines you. Your response to it does. Principle 16. Make money work for you. Rich people have their money work hard for them. Poor people work hard for their money. Hard work alone does not create wealth. For proof, many people spend their lives earning active income and never become wealthy. But wealthy people know what to do with that income. They use it to build assets, create leverage, and grow ownership. They convert it into assets that keep generating money without their constant effort. The distinction is simple. Active income stops when you stop working. Passive income from real estate, businesses, dividends, or investments keeps flowing whether you show up or not. Rich people often work hard at first, but their long-term goal is different. Replace their labor with systems and assets that do the work for them. 3 examples show how this plays out in practice. The treadmill worker, someone who works overtime and spends everything, is still just trading time for money, no matter how hard they work. The quiet investor, someone who saves part of each paycheck and buys dividend stocks or rental property, is building future income streams. The leverage player, a business owner who builds systems, hires help, and steps back from daily operations, is turning work into leverage. Eker's point is that financial freedom happens when your passive income covers your living expenses. If your monthly expenses are $4,000 and your investments or business income produce $4,000 without requiring your full-time labor, you are much closer to freedom. That is why what you do with a raise or a bonus matters more than most people think. A financially stuck person upgrades their lifestyle. A wealth-building person buys an asset. The goal is not to stop working. It is to stop working only for money and start having money work alongside you. Principle 17. Never stop learning. Rich people constantly learn and grow. Poor people think they already know. Wealth is tied to personal growth. Rich people do not assume they have all the answers. They keep learning, improving, and adapting. Poor people, by contrast, often protect their identity by trying to be right instead of trying to get better. If your mindset, habits, and judgment do not improve, more money alone will not help you grow into a wealthier person. For example, an investor who loses money can blame the market, or they can study what went wrong and improve their strategy, or a salesperson who is struggling can insist they already know sales, or they can learn communication, objection handling, and follow-up. Learning matters because better knowledge often leads to better decisions, higher value, and more opportunities. A worker who learns a new software skill may become more valuable at work. An entrepreneur who studies marketing may attract more customers. An investor who learns basic risk management may avoid expensive mistakes. Personal growth is continuous. You do not become done after one breakthrough. You keep learning, adjusting, and becoming more capable as a saver, communicator, leader, partner, or decision maker. The practical takeaway is simple. If you want different results, you must become a different version of yourself. Rich people treat learning as part of the job. Poor people treat it as optional.